Hello YouTube, back with the next My Little Pony review, and today I'm reviewing the Furbobs. These are hard to explain, hard to describe what they actually look like. They're kind of sort of a cross between like rabbits and dogs. There's different colors, they have different noses. They're all generally about the same physique, both, kind of slightly heavy set here. But they're kind of literally opposite of the Bushwoolies. I kind of explained before, the Bushwoolies are kind of they're kind of hard to describe as well, but they're really just little blobs with hands on them. But these have a little bit more detail to them. They got looks like a fort. They got either two legs and either you want to call it four legs and they're just standing on two, or you want to call them they're somewhat anthropomorphic with two legs and two arms, if you will. But they're not just the opposite in that aspect as well, because they also tend not to agree on anything. They did agree once, to my recollection, but it was only agreeing because of their situation. They had to do with the stonebacks, which are sort of like armadillo / crocodile hybrid type of creatures. I'll review them more next week. I can do those next week, but these are, they're not. I guess it's an interesting concept. If these are also cousins to the Bushwoolies, you kind of sort of see the relationship. They're at least furry. They're sort of, I don't know. They do make for interesting characters as a whole, not just because they're all different colors. It's not like they're all the same color. Although that probably in itself be somewhat interesting, because they're just so different from their other characters in the show. They're different from the humans. They're different from even the ponies themselves. They're kind of like a league all their own. There's a whole bunch of them. They have their own little world called Furbobs. We don't get to see a whole lot of it, but we know they've got healing powers because of a baby Cuddles that ends up needing to be healed after she falls. I forget why. I think she falls off the bridge or whatever. So that's kind of where we first sort of find out their situation, because they've been. You kind of feel bad for the Furbobs, because they don't really. Because they're trying to have a home here. They want to have their own home, but unfortunately, since the stonebacks can't speak any language at all, I think besides like grunting and stuff like that, they'd end up giving the wrong impression. They're just there to bother the Furbobs and kick them out wherever they go. But as it turns out, Megan realizes this is not the case and gets them to help. That's the only time they actually end up helping kind of agreeing. They kind of have to agree with each other, but even then it takes a little while to get them going, because I don't know, do we really want to trust them? We've kind of sort of not trusted them for ever, and we've kind of even the wrong impression. It's always hard to take in the actual information when you believe the wrong information for so long. I don't really mind them per se. They're not my favorite character on the list. I don't know if I truly have a favorite on the show or the movie, or in that version of the franchise, but they're not the worst characters. I've seen worse in even today's shows that are absolutely worse than these characters as a whole. At least they're all different. You probably wouldn't be able to tell them apart right away. As far as I know, I don't think any of them actually have names given. They're probably too difficult to keep track of. And considering the fact they didn't even keep track of names, and for the other characters, like some of the Flutter ponies actually had names, they didn't keep track of them very well because they were not consistent, you can tell. They call them one name in one part, and another name in another part. But yeah, you kind of feel bad for them, but at the same time, it's not really their fault. They don't speak Stoneback, and Stonebacks don't speak, period. They just, but yeah, they wanted to be friends, and as we find out, yes, they end up helping out. And they go to get back the Sunstone from the bees of Bumbleland. They end up getting the Sunstone back by digging a hole under Og after finding out their original tactic wasn't going to work. One could have probably figured it might not have worked the second time, but one never knows, really. It could work the second time. But yeah, they're not that bad, and they're always generally optimistic. They may not agree. They may not ever agree on anything, so in some ways they could be rather annoying at times, but one can argue the same thing about the Bushwoolies, always agreeing on things. Because they're always agreeing whenever the ponies are agreeing, and disagreeing, and kind of sort of following the way they are. But so really, they can't really speak to themselves, but at least the Furbobs are kind of generally always happy, so at least they're somewhat optimistic. Except, under certain conditions. But they can probably all agree, if nothing else, they can all agree on what the Stonebacks... They'd all basically agreed on what the Stonebacks were based on their own perception. They didn't really have anything else to work with at the time. But yeah, they do turn over a new leaf, at least to some extent. You don't get to see them a whole lot in the series. I don't think they really appear after that segment. They don't appear in the movie, to my knowledge. Maybe they're somewhere in the background. I don't think so. I think they were kind of later introduced. The Bushwoolies are sort of a counterpart. They're cousins after all. So you kind of sort of see the resemblance. But overall, they're not that bad in terms of character. I mean, obviously, I think in some sense I prefer the Bushwoolies just a little bit more, only because they have a little more facial expression. They're not always smiling. They can be concerned. They can be happy. They can be sad. Generally, of course, again, only because of what the ponies are feeling at the time, or whoever they're nearby is feeling at the time. But they have a little more personality. I don't hate the Furbobs at all. They seem like they do bring a new. They do bring something else to the table, something different to the table. So yeah, that's my review on the Furbobs from the G1 TV show. Thanks for watching.